This video is just a rough analysis. Please do not take it too seriously and enjoy.
Hey Hollie-Ho everyone, this is Milo, where we talk about all things horror. I may talk about the occasional other movie every once in a while. This is my first video ever on the channel, and I found it fitting to talk about, well, what my intro is based off of, the one and only Trick or Treat. Trick or Treat is a 2007 horror anthology comedy movie directed by Michael Dougherty, and in my opinion, it's one of the great horror masterpieces of at least the 2000s. So in Trick or Treat, we follow Sam, who is kind of a protagonist, antagonist, like the third party viewing all of these separate films connecting into one. But I don't know, I like to call him like the Halloween spirit, I'm not sure. But he's super cute. He carries around a little sack with him, and he has like a pumpkin head. Really, really interesting. Great design choice. This movie is, in my opinion, one of the most visually stunning movies, period, because of just the colors. Like, this movie is so colorful, and it's very different from how other movies are like shot and how they look. It also has a really cool like intro and outro where it's like a series of like comic strips that you're going through as it's like showing you the director and the cast and everything, and it's so unique. Up until 2007, we hadn't really gotten anything that was unique. It was just like all very filtered and like boring, the same old thing at that point. We didn't really have like a big horror icon. I mean, now we do, but I'll talk about him later. And it didn't hit until Trick or Treat eventually came out in, you know, the early 2000s. And honestly, I think that it kind of sparked horror and the love and passion for it all over again by making it so unique. Which is kind of funny because the director of this movie also directed Krampus, and I believe Godzilla, Gods and Monsters as well. So he definitely has a unique style in his movies, very colorful but very grim. I think Trick or Treat is definitely, it's a grim movie. So the movie starts off and you have this couple, and they have all these Halloween decorations. It is like so like overly decorated, honestly. The husband's really into it, but the wife isn't really. So she decides, oh, I think that we should take down the Halloween decorations on Halloween night, which is crazy. That is a crime, ma'am. I'm sorry. And she's just taking down these Halloween decorations, you know? It'll take all night, but like whatever. And then Sam isn't very happy about that. And this is actually one of the only times in the movie where you actually see Sam like try to kill anyone. But anyways, he wrecks her. He traps her in like a ghost sheet, and like the camera zooms out to like a frame of her with like she's like hung up like the ghost decorations, and she has the lollipop like lodged in her mouth. But that's like the first little like set of stories that is told in the movie. Anyways, after Miss Ma'am unfortunately meets her demise, it immediately cuts to like this other story where it is these young women, they're dressed up like Cinderella and like Red Riding Hood and just like fable characters, I guess. And they're picking up guys like in their van. It's really creepy, honestly. It's kind of foreshadowing, but you're like, okay, interesting. I don't know why we need to see this, but okay. And then it cuts to, yes, the baby. But anyways, there's this like little kid who looks like that kid from The Sandlot, like the "You're Killing Me, Smalls" kid. Yeah, that guy. He's over here just knocking over jack-o'-lanterns, which is like not good. Why are you doing that? That's like some people's hard work right there. Anyways, he joins his principal on his porch and he's carving pumpkins. He's talking about like Halloween traditions and stuff. And the kid just starts like eating some of his candy. You know, he's not really paying much attention. And then while the principal's talking, it zooms back over to the kid. And since he didn't check the wrappers, well, you know, like the whole myth about like razor blades in your Halloween candy. Yeah, he ends up eating one of those. So this kid's like just bleeding out with like blood and chocolate, and it's very gross. And the principal's just like, oh, should have checked your Halloween candy. So anyways, he starts dragging like the kid's body into the house, and like the principal's son, yes, he has a son, while he's like, you know, unaliving these kids, he's dragging him like through like the house, and then he brings him into like this like 6-foot like grave that he's buried in his backyard, and he starts like trying to bury the kid, and the neighbor's also like, what are you doing over there? And he's like, oh, I'm not doing anything. Meanwhile, the kid's like screaming for help, and he just like whacks him with a shovel. Honestly, it is like, it's so like morbid, but it's like a very funny scene. And then after he buries this kid, his son's like calling up to him and stuff, and he's like, what do you want? And he's like, well, it's time to start carving jack-o'-lanterns. And so he's like, oh yeah, it is time. And he takes his son down to the basement. You know, they got their like knives out, ready to carve some jack-o'-lanterns. And then like the camera like pans over to this kid that he just buried his head, and they're carving a jack-o'-lantern into his face. And that's the last you see of Principal Wilkins for now. So earlier that night, the principal, he got visited by these like kids in Halloween costumes. And they're like, trick or treat, whatever. And then Sam comes up, and he's also trick or treating, and he does give him good candy, which is a good move on his part, because, you know, Sam would have. So after the whole like scene with like his like son carving into the face, it cuts to those kids again, like still trick or treating around the neighborhood, and they go to like their one of their teachers like front door, and she's having like some kind of swinger party or something. And they're like, okay, and they get candy, and they walk off, and they're talking about it, and it's like, it's so funny. So after the kids are walking off, it cuts to like this like little scene of like a Halloween festival or something that's happening in the town, and there's this like vampire guy, and he's just unaliving this girl in front of everyone, but they think it's like, they don't see it because most of it happens in an alleyway, and then like he tucks away and like kills her really fast. There's also a little split second where she runs into, presumably, the lady at the beginning of the movie, which is foreshadowing for later. And he just kills her in front of everyone, and because it's a festival, nobody pays attention. They just think she's like a drunk lady passed out, and she has blood all over her because it's Halloween. Anyways, then it cuts back to the kids. They go to this like girl that they bully's house, and you'll see why later, but it's not good. And they're like, oh, let's go to this like abandoned rock quarry, because why not? It's Halloween, and there's like some scary tales to tell about it. And she's like, okay, I'm in. And so the kids, like, they have like their jack-o'-lanterns on the wagon, and they're like trailing it behind them, and they go to this rock quarry where like the main bully girl is talking about like the story that happened like 10-20 years ago, where this bus driver was like driving with these disabled kids whose parents paid him off to drive the bus off the cliff into the rock quarry with all the kids inside of it. And it's like very creepy. It's a very creepy scene. It still sticks with me today, even though I like the first time I watched this movie I was younger. And yeah, it's not fun. And he like puts the bus in neutral and just yeets them off the cliff. So anyways, these kids are like, oh, let's go see if like these zombie children are actually down in this rock quarry. And they're taking the girl down. There's like this old mine elevator. It's hard to explain what I'm talking about, but you'll know what I mean. So they're going down one by one, because it's like, it only fits one person. And they're going down this elevator, and all of a sudden, she's like looking around, like the vibes are really off, and these zombie kids start attacking her. She like freaks the heck out. I mean, who wouldn't? And she's like, it's really depressing. And then it turns out it's these kids like pulling off like this huge prank to her, because they're bullies being bullies. Not cool, man. And so they're like there's like a boy in the group, and he's like kind of taking a liking to her, so he's nicer to her. And he's like, oh, are you okay? Whatever. And then it pans off to some of the other kids that are like walking around. I think they lit up jack-o'-lanterns in the scene to like as a tradition or something to do with the story for Halloween, but they do have like lit up jack-o'-lanterns with them. I think it's to repel like the zombie kids away, supposedly. But it goes to like these other kids, and the actual like dead kids from like what happened before start attacking them and like killing them. It's really freaky. And it finally zooms over to like the nicer bully guy and the girl that was being bullied, and she's like running away with him. And then she gets on the elevator and she's like, "You bullied me. It's only one occupant. Sorry." She goes up with the pumpkin up the elevator and like watches him get like devoured by these zombie kids. And it is amazing. Good for her, honestly. There's also a scene where like the girl that's being bullied, Sam looks at her and she looks at him, but he doesn't. She looks at me and I look at him, but he doesn't do anything because she's following the Halloween tradition. She has the lit jack-o'-lantern, she's in costume, she's doing her thing, and she's like, "Bye, girl." Anyway, so it cuts to our lovely lady friends that are dressed up as the Fable characters again. The girl that's Little Red Riding Hood, she's like kind of like the outcast of the group, I think. That's like how they're trying to portray her. And she's trying to find a date. They're all trying to find dates. That's why the girls picked the guys up in the van earlier. And she's just not having any luck. She's having a lot of trouble trying to find a date. And they're like making fun of her and stuff, whatever. It just looks like, you know, girls being girls being ghouls, whatever. Everything I'm about to say is false. Quite the opposite happens of what I'm saying. He tries to kill her. That's why he ends up at this bonfire. Just letting y'all know before I start speaking. Okay, continue. She picks up Vampire Man from before. All the ladies, they take their new man friends out into the woods, and there's like a fire. They're all like, you know, making out, doing their thing. And then all of a sudden, like, this music starts playing and you're like, okay, what's happening? All the girls just slowly start turning into werewolves. Honestly, if there was any scene I could take out of this movie, or at least like change it, alter it a little bit, it would probably be this scene because it's a little corny. Also, right before they transition into these werewolves, the girl takes like the mask off the vampire guy. Turns out, lo and behold, it's Principal Wilkins, a silly goose. And, you know, they kill him, so he had a busy night, but he had what was coming to him, you know? So then it cuts to, like a scene, and it says earlier, and you're like, okay, well, what are we doing now? And it's cutting to the neighbor from earlier that yelled at the principal while he was, like, burying the kid. And we're getting a little bit of backstory with this man. He's kind of like an old hermit. He has a dog. He's kind of a slob, whatever. And he's burning like a picture in the fire. And you look at the picture, and the picture is of those kids that were driven off into the rock quarry by a bus driver. And you're like, okay, this guy's the bus driver. And that kind of connects into that. And you're like, okay, I wonder what's gonna happen here. And basically, like, the whole ending of this movie is just Sam at his door. He opens the door, he's like, leave me alone, whatever. And then Sam's like, no, actually, I'll make myself welcome here. And they have this like huge brawl. Like, they literally just like going at each other's throats. Like, he rips like Sam's like sack face off, and like it reveals that he's like a pumpkin guy. And he's like, Sam's like stabbing him with like the Hollie-Ho candy bar. He has writing all over like his walls. Just absolutely tormenting this poor man. Anyways, after like the old bus driver man kind of has like this little brawl with like Sam, he's messed up, whatever. And all of a sudden there's knocking at his door, and he's like, oh no, more trick-or-treaters. I wonder if they're gonna try to stab me with a candy bar too. And he opens the door, and it's the dead kids from the rock quarry. And they're like, you missed me? And then, yeah, you can assume what happens after that. And then at the very ending of the movie, it kind of like zooms out into the shot of the woman from earlier at the beginning of the movie. And you're like, okay, this is happening at the beginning, but at the end. Bear with me. And then the kids that, you know, got attacked by the dead kids, they're also like taking their little wagon down the road, doing their thing. And everything just kind of blends together. And it's like it's just honestly such a good anthology movie. I think that it is super creative and colorful, and honestly, it's one of a kind in my opinion, and honestly, I don't know what we do without it. I mean, Sam's an icon. It's also one of my only liked anthology horror movies, only because it kind of connects everything, even though each story is like drastically different from each other. The score is great. I love the score. I love Sam, obviously, and it's just, I don't know, it's like the Halloween movie. Like, you don't really have any like Halloween night Halloween movies that aren't, you know, Halloween, that feel like how Trick or Treat does, if that makes sense. Because you have plenty of horror movies, but you don't have any Halloween movies. And honestly, I think that even though it's still like the only one technically, it's a very good feel movie for Halloween, and it kind of changed like the horror game, in my opinion. Because after that movie came out, everyone was like, okay, we gotta start being creative. Like, you got Paranormal Activity popping out, you got like The Conjuring, a bunch of unique movies that are all telling their own story, but nothing that followed that same formula from like before Trick or Treat came out. Not really, at least. And also, like, we got more horror comedy too, which horror comedy, chef's kiss. But yeah, that was my little video essay, I guess, of Trick or Treat. Obviously, I don't have like a very good setup right now. I'm doing my best. I will definitely, as I progress, get more equipment and stuff, make things look a little nicer in here, and probably start doing more recent movies that are coming out, like Weapons. I need to review that. If you have any suggestions for me, let me know. Feel free to subscribe or like this video, and I'll see you guys next time.